Well, after having been cast into exterior darkness for a number of decades due to the hegemony of the naturalistic fallacy, thanks to a little article of Peter Geach, there came back into currency in talking about the appraisal of actions or of anything as good or bad, the notion that we have to know what it is, so that the nature of the thing, the nature of the function, is controlling in our ability to say whether or not the function is being performed well or badly, and then consequently whether the one performing that function should be called good or bad. It was a breath of fresh air. And it tended to look, as I described it when I mentioned it a moment ago, it looked like the reinstatement of the Aristotelian analysis. I also mentioned that Bernard Williams took it up in a little book of his and welcomed it and thought it was a great thing, but Bernard Williams said, the problem with it is that, well, you can talk about the function of a person as a father or as a husband or as a cameraman or as a golfer or a bank teller, all these particular functions. Man as such has no function. So that this doesn't really help you to move to an answer to the question that guided the discussion from the beginning, what is the good for man? What makes a human agent good as such? And again, Williams is quite, I think, sincerely disappointed that Geach's reintroduction of this mode of analysis, call it the function analysis, which enables us to tie down the ascription of good to an agent playing this role, that role, or the other role, just won't enable us to make the move that Aristotle wanted to make to the function of man as man, and such that we could say, what? To perform that function well is to be a good man. So that's the kind of argument it is. If the function of golfing is such and such, then to perform that function well is the basis of our saying that so-and-so is a good golfer. If a human being as such, the human agent as such, has a function, then, by parity of reasoning, to perform that function well is the basis for saying this is a good human being. And Bernard Williams says that's the way it's supposed to go, but alas, it's not going to work because there isn't any such thing as a function for the human agent as such. What Aristotle called his ergon, or his work, the specifically human work. Well, isn't there? Clearly, Bernard Williams is committed to the view that if there is such a function, then the well performance of that function is the basis for a saying of a human agent that he's a good one, that he's a good person, a good man, a good human being. Now, how does Aristotle approach this? He started with the function analysis, and he will say things like, does the eye have a function, and does man not have a function? And it's clear what he's saying. We know what an eye is. If we see well with an eye, or if we see well with the eye, we say it's a good eye. That's the arete, or the perfection. The virtue of the eye is to see well, and that leads us to call it a good one. So Aristotle lays that out, and then he wants to move to what is the function of man. And unlike Bernard Williams, he anticipated him by about 2,500 years, he's not put off by the transition, and he's able to put forward an answer to the question, what is man's function? And he arrives at it not unlike the way in which St. Thomas Aquinas made the distinction that we were talking about yesterday between human acts and the acts of a man. Remember that what Thomas said is this, that there are certain operations or activities which are truly ascribable to a human being, but they're not ascribable to him as a human being. That is, they can be found in things other than a human being. So that if you were, let's say, on the third floor, and someone passed by your window, let's say from the top to the bottom, plummeting to the street, you would say that so-and-so is falling. This is an activity which, as it happens, you could drop a cow off the roof and it would fall like that. You could drop a bag of cement, a rock, it would fall in the same way. Falling is not among the things that we would think characterizes a human being, and we wouldn't tend to congratulate someone because he fell well, let's say, in most ordinary circumstances. He might be a stunt man in the movies, and we would be congratulating him on his skill in that case. But a fall in the sense of an accidental tumble, we're not going to tell somebody, I like the way you do that. That was pretty neat. So these are not activities that characterize human being. No more, remember those other acts of a man, as Thomas called them, to distinguish them from human action, digestive functions, for example, or just feeling emotion, feeling attracted to that which promises pleasure and repelled by that which threatens pain. These are just instincts that we have. They're just things that happen willy-nilly, whether we like it or not. So we're not likely to think of those as characteristic, as being human, or as being characteristic of human beings, because in the higher animals, at least, we tend to see reactions pretty much like those of fear and of desire and the like. So Aristotle keeps pushing this. Huh? And I'm trying to link it now to Thomas's distinction between human acts and the acts of a man. Aristotle keeps pushing this and asks, what is the activity that sets a man off from all other agents? And he answers in the same way that Plato had and Socrates had, and indeed, as most of us would, what distinguishes human beings from all other things in this cosmos, in the material universe, is the fact that a human being thinks. A human being engages in rational activity. And the greatest sign of this is the fact that we are the talking animal. We are the talking animal. We communicate to one another by a very supple set of signs, and it's almost hilarious to compare the signals and signs of animals to this extremely malleable tool of human language, which is what? Expressive of our apprehension, of our grasp, our cognitive grasp of the world around us. This sets us off, and so speech is a sign of reason. The speaking animal, rational animal, we could say, that's almost what it meant for the Greeks, the animal who talks. This is what sets us off from all other things in the cosmos. So Aristotle would say that is the distinctive activity of a human being, rational activity. And then, again, by parity of reasoning, what he would presumably go on to say is this: to perform that activity well is the human virtue, or arete, and one who possesses that would be called a good human being.